Hey.
Okay, now I can
Haha.
see me, but I can't see. So,
There you
oh,
are.
there you are.
There you are. I
Jeez
see ya.
Louise, man. I don't know why it's not working.
Yeah. I love it.
I don't remember why the hell we met.
Welcome to This Commerce Life. This is a podcast aimed at small, medium entrepreneurs focused on commerce. I'm Phil, your host, and Kenny, your co-host, will join us as well. And we're going to talk to you about the world of retail and commerce and how things are changing in the world. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us today. We've got Kenny back, and we've got Jim from Shopland Health with us. And this one's pretty cool. So last week, Kenny talked about launching his brand and all the SKUs and all that kind of stuff. And we'll get to him and talk to him about some of the SKU stuff going on and see if we've got some product that we can yak about as well. But kind of next in this process or along this lines is having having a guy like Jim and Shopland Health on. So Jim's going to introduce himself and what he does, but Jim is a broker, and we thought it'd be great to have him on the show and have him explain what he does and how this helps little brands, because having a guy like Jim with his expertise in your corner is critical to understand. So you understand where this falls in your path as a little brand. So welcome to the show, Jim.
Thanks a lot, Phil. I appreciate it. Thanks, Kenny. I appreciate you guys having me on, and I'm looking forward to have a nice little chat here. So.
Yeah, no, we're really excited. We think this is a really great conversation to have now, because it kind of falls along the path of, as you're launching brands and thinking about distribution. So would you tell the audience kind of what you do and I guess your company, and then what you do and what a broker is?
Sure. Yeah. So Shopland Health Connections, we're a broker. We specialize in Western Canada, understanding the drug and grocery customers in Western Canada. So we'll work with brands that are predominantly selling at health food market and help them move into the drug and grocery channel. Work with them to build out their business plan, understand what are some of the differences between the markets. I know we'll get into some of that conversation later, but what are some of the differences in the channels? And help them work through those things so they understand exactly what happens in the sales process and what they're going to expect as they move from distribution and health food into drug and grocery.
Got it. And then, so you're a broker, and so
Mm-hmm.
you probably get this a lot, right? So, because I think a lot of the little brands that, for sure I talk to, I think Kenny, you're in the same boat, is they don't really understand the difference between like a broker and a distributor, and kind of the differences and how to leverage you guys, right? Would you
Mm-hmm.
mind kind of clearing that up a little?
Sure. Yeah. So, biggest difference between a distributor and a broker. So, us as a broker, we manage that sales cycle for you. So, we're going to connect a manufacturer with the retailer, and we're going to facilitate that sale to happen. We don't physically distribute product. We don't warehouse product. We just help with that sales process. So, what we really like to try and do is to try and get into that sales cycle, into that process with the manufacturer, and get in there early enough so that we can help them understand what are some of the costs, what are the right retailers for their products, also recognizing if they need to make any changes before they do it. And oftentimes we'll get calls from manufacturers saying, hey, we got this great product. Will you warehouse it for us, or will you distribute it out west for us? It's not what we do. We strictly look at facilitating that transaction for them. So.
Got it. And so that's it's definitely the distinction. So little brands, if you're looking at this, these guys are your leads into retailers. They've got, Jim, you've probably got like a ton of relationships with retailers. You're always probably thinking about what buyers are thinking about too, right? In terms of like new products and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
little brands should be able to leverage you for that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. You think about a large company that's got a sales force out there. They probably got a key account manager. They got multiple SKUs that they'd be managing. A broker, we're sort of similar in a perspective that we're going to have a basket full of products, and we're going to be able to use that basket to be able to go in and see buyers, talk to the category manager and the buyers at different companies, and be able to say, here's the products that we represent. And by that, we're actually helping out the smaller brands to be able to have that sales force out there without having to have that cost of having a full-time employee or whatever. So we're just leveraging it across it. And then we also have the relationships. So we work both ways, both by taking our products to the buyers, but also working with the buyers and saying, hey, what type of products are you looking for? What type of brands? What's your target customer? How can we help you go out and source that product, whether it be in Canada, US, or throughout the world?
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Kenny, did you guys, when you were at London, do you use brokers?
I used we used both brokers and distributors, and at times brokers and distributors at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So a good broker, like Jim says, is not going to so much. They don't own distribute product.
Mm-hmm.
They are the liaison. They are a lot of times the face of for the principal, for the vendor. But Jim could also be in a situation where someone does say, listen, we also need a distributor. Well, Jim might be able to help him find a distributor who does basically pick and pack, and then he could still perform the role as a broker on top of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like for small brands, I would definitively go with a broker, definitively, because it's just, you're typically getting an expert into the accounts, and typically you're getting an expert in the industry, right?
Yeah.
And I'd rather use a broker than a lot of times than rather a distributor's sales reps, because distributors typically have 4,000 or 5,000 items, and you just get lost in the shuffle.
Right.
And their sales reps might be just a little bit broader based.
Yeah.
Brokers tend to be a little bit more targeted, for lack of a better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Especially if someone in Jim's size, where he's not a multinational broker, he picks and chooses what he likes, what he thinks makes sense, and has probably got a very nice, tight, frame to work from. So that's how I would look at it. Definitely use them though. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, it's a neat way for little brands to understand what retailers want, right? I mean, because I think the world of kind of going from natural health to kind of multi-level retailers, and just bigger retailers, the needs are different, the costs are definitely different.
Might be your only way in, Phil.
Yeah, it really might be.
Jim's
right?
got contacts, whereas the little guy's going to come out. Who's he going to call?
Yeah.
Right. Who do you talk to?
Yeah.
Right. Whereas someone like Jim or whoever it is, at least has most likely some relationships built, and it has access to key decision people. And because they're in there, they actually know what's selling, what's not selling.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's neat too. So, I mean, being able to, Jim, you probably, as you call on buyers and things like that, you're probably helping these brands with little things, or not little things, but things that they wouldn't understand, right? Like, if you're filling in paperwork and things like that, understanding the process of, hey, you know what, this buyer, they're not going to want this kind of information. What they want from you is, the following, right? And being able to leverage that expertise as well.
Yeah, exactly. We specialize in sort of natural skincare and pain relief products, OTC supplements, and so some of the first questions that come out are natural product numbers, for instance. Making sure that all the products are regulated properly, English French packaging.
Mm-hmm.
Those sorts of things are the first questions you can ask. And you may have a manufacturer, someone who's got a product that they're interested in distributing, and they've been doing it and knocking on the doors of around their neighborhood, and they got a few sales going, and all of a sudden they want to expand. What's the next level for them? What do they need to know and understand for that? And by looping in someone like ourselves, we can at the beginning save them a lot of dollars of costs that they don't necessarily need to have, and also be able to help them with that transition and understanding what they actually need to do. When you go from a health food into drug and grocery, and understanding what their warehouses are going to need, and all of the requirements for shipping and things, we can answer those questions for them along the way.
Yeah, it's that's for little brands that are listening, it's kind of Kenny and I talked about this last time too, right? Is the importance of having connections and having expertise in your corner, right? Because I think one of the things that a lot of indie brands do is just they try and kind of do everything themselves, right? But Kenny and I said, look, like, Kenny and I, and so now people, right? And so Jim is another one of those that you'd really want to engage him as you're building in the process, because it'll help you understand all of those things, like all the things that make Kenny and I crazy, right? They have packaging, costing, you know, Jim, like you probably get a ton of people who kind of show up at your door. Do you kind of take everybody? Like, do you kind of look at people with a curated eye to see who will be able to land on a shelf and who can't, and you know, those sort of things?
Yeah, it's interesting what we get. You get the variety. You know, sort of a third of those are out there. You know, you might call it fishing. They're asking the questions, just trying to understand a little bit about what's going on. A third of them need some work. You know, some serious work to happen before they can really get out there and get going. And then the other third are generally ready to go, and that means they're either ready to be, you know, a new product ready to get into the market, or they've got some existing sales and they need some help. You know, they've gotten down the path some way and all of a sudden realize we're in over our head here, and we need some help. And in some cases they're desperate, and unfortunately in some of those cases they've got a warehouse full of product and they're trying to move it and it's dated, and all of a sudden they give someone like us a call, and we're going, boy, this is going to put us in a difficult position to be able to do this. We'd love to be able to move your product. We think you've got a lot of great attributes for the product. But all of a sudden now you're up against a crunch line, and that's a really challenging position to be in when you're a small vendor, when you've got a bunch of inventory in a warehouse and you got all your costs wrapped up in that.
Yeah, it's tough too, right? I mean, to show up like that and then to try and get you involved. But I mean, you know, you've got working relationships with all these retailers, right? So to show up and try and dump something at somebody's door that might come back on you as well is going to be tough for you as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it really does depend on the timing. You know, you think about the seasons and the length of time and buyers. You know, and I know you go in and see Kenny when he was in with London before, and you know, he's wrapped up seasons well ahead of time, and all of a sudden somebody comes to us and say, hey, I got a great product that would sell right now, and you're going, well, these retailers have got 3, 4, 6 months
Yeah.
sometimes. You know what you're getting in there now. So
yeah, that's a neat one. You know, we were talking about that earlier, but like so it is just the beginning of February. So what are buyers thinking about now? So the buyers that you're kind of working with, Kenny, what would you be thinking about now?
I'd be getting close to wrapping up Christmas. I'm not thinking summer. Summer's long gone.
Okay.
Back to school, you might have, you know, that September period of maybe another 3-4 weeks left of sort of planning. Christmas, I mean, Christmas you want to have wrapped up by the end of March, absolute latest.
Yeah.
I mean, even right now, you could be thinking about spring of 19. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be that far, because that's what you're buying. I mean, if you're buying from Asia, if you're buying local, a lot of chains have restrictions on planogram. It's just the other thing people don't. This is, you know, it's a funny one. Phil, you and I've talked about this numerous times over the last couple of months. Is that, you know, an idea is great, but the idea doesn't make a business. An idea is exactly what it is. It's an idea.
Yeah.
At the beginning, before you start burying a chunk of change that you might not have into things, is the time to sort of take advantage of the people like the three of us. You leverage the hell out of people like us, because this is the part where you're either going to piss away more money than you have, or you're going to line yourself up to be actually not in a bad cash flow crunch. You can actually do okay, right? But people get so far into it. I know Jim's probably going to tell you the same, or he can tell you that, is that I used to see a lot of people that they're so far into it, and you just looked at me and thought, you guys, you should have asked a few people before. I mean, you're probably 8 months late of asking a broker for help because you're too far into it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you got to take advantage of the knowledge at the front end. All of us cost money, right? None of us are churches or anything. We're not working for free. But at the same time, the amount of money you save now by getting organized and understanding, you know, like seriously, I know Jim's got a sun care line, and I'm sure he'll tell us in a second. I don't think he's doing a whole swag of presentations now for the summer of this year. In small independents, maybe, but not in mass accounts.
Yeah.
Right,
exactly.
Jimmy?
The summer stuff, the sun care stuff was put to bed before Christmas time, and
exactly.
And if you consider as a small brand, and you're thinking about what you want to do with your products and when you want to launch them, you got to consider all of those things in that. So consider how long it takes you to launch a new product. And if you want to sell it in summer of 2018, and you've got to present that product in the fall of 2017, when do you have to start to think about that? And so it's a fairly long lead time, definitely. So sun care wrapped up well before Christmas time for us. And you're right. All I'm doing right now is knocking on the smaller ones and trying to move the the remaining parts of our forecast that we feel that these brands are able to do. So.
But if you were a small brand, had a good idea and you started producing in December because you thought you'd be out, pitching stores in February and March, and they were going to buy for May and June. I mean, all it would have taken is a quick phone call to someone like you or the two of us and a quick question. And we said, yes, you can definitely do it, but you're planning for summer of 2019 now.
Yeah. It would have saved
you're not talking 2018 anymore, my friends. It's long gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, but that's where talking to those people that know the game becomes so critical. And you've got to understand that.
Yeah. Well,
right?
I mean, you think about that question, right? And it's a pick up the phone and ask the question. But for a small business owner who is looking at producing batches and minimum order quantities, this saves you an entire year's of inventory, right? Like this is I could produce it now and I sit on it until when, right? Another year, expiry dates, all those sort of things. Or I get some of those answers out of there, and then I realize, like, hey, you know what? Maybe the great idea is still great, and maybe I'm on the right track, but I got to wait to produce now, right? Because
and that's fine. So now you get a kick-ass plan ahead of you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you're ready for the following year, as opposed to jumping in head first. And and that's like where Jim was saying that you get people phoning last minute where they're either overdated or short dated. A lot of that's because the idea was great, but they went to production and then tried to find the resources to help them get it listed, not understanding that if you want a cough and cold product listed in mass retail right now, you might have another month of window left. And that's for the guys who are flexible. Because quite frankly, for the guys who are inflexible, you probably missed it by 2-3 weeks already. It's beginning of January, end of December. You're done. I mean, party's over, man. And I know it sounds hard, but 9 months to a year out, that's reality.
No. Yeah.
And I don't, Jim, what's it like out there in terms of planogramming and stuff? So how far out are like we used to open? I was notorious. My planograms never closed, which wasn't going to last much longer because it's too hard to deal with that. But are you finding companies being massively restrictive? Like, do you have to be there for January to pitch, let's say, skincare, and if you miss it, you're waiting to the following January?
Yeah, pretty much so. Everybody's going to have an annual date of doing their planograms when they're going to renew it and look at it to refresh it. And then you back up from that date when it goes out to the store, how long it takes for them to put it together, get all the data and everything like that. And unless you've got a really, really unique product or something that they think is going to really work, you're not going to make it in there. And the interesting part about being a planogram is that just gets you on the shelf, right? That's just the listing on the shelf. And so you've got to consider, is that product actually going to move or not off the shelf too? And so you do all your work and you think you got a great product and you make a presentation and then what? And so all of that time and energy you put into it up front, you've got to consider what you're going to do at the other end to help to move that product off the shelf. Because you've got that one time, once a year to be able to make that impression. And if it doesn't work, they'll certainly pull you out. They won't wait a year to pull it out if it doesn't sell. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what are you finding right now? So like in your categories, which are mostly OTC, skincare, like you're saying, like what, so if I'm let's say I'm a little guy and I've got a kick-ass pain relief product. I've got packaging done. I've got an NPN or a DIN, whichever side it's on. And I could go to production tomorrow. Like, let's do pain. Let's say it's a pain product. What kind of window, what am I looking at right now? What advice are you giving me?
So if you got
like a pain relief trying to get in,
that product's typically going to roll out to a store in the fall. So let's say September is going to roll out to a store. Means you
have I missed it?
Not necessarily. It'd be really tight right now in some cases. Some would turn off the tap, certainly. Some would be in that position that would say, no, we're not taking any more Others you may have, because beginning of the year it's you're still kind of changing over to 2019 or 2018, sorry, and people are still getting kind of used to it. Some retailers still have buying shows, and those buying shows are buying for that fall and winter time. So you would be really tight, but you would right now you would need to know every detail about your product. There's no going out there and testing it or checking it out. You need to know exactly what you're doing for packaging, and all of your production and everything like that would have to be lined up. However, one of the nice things that is available, a lot of retailers will do, is they will do some pre-booking. And so that does give you an opportunity to be able to go into, let's say, a season like cough and cold, and do a pre-book with it, which allows those stores to be able to do the ordering. And then you get a chance to kind of get an idea on what your forecast is, and get an idea on what some of that initial production is going to need. So again, as a broker, if I'm talking to somebody and they come to me and say, I got a paint product, I say, well, we got to figure out our relationship right now. We got to figure out your product right now. And I got to see if I can make an appointment, but an appointment could be 60 days away, and then you've missed the boat for sure. Definitely.
But I think that's the important part to press upon a lot of sort of startups, is that, we're talking a season that's going to start in 7 months. And from what you're saying, basically you've pretty much, the train has left the station. Mm-hmm. And we're only in February. We just started February.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't think sometimes that people appreciate, that's the knowledge and that's the information you get when you start asking the questions before you start, paying for product that you're made even, because you could have made it in January 1. You're all gung ho. Well, yeah, but again, now you're looking at September 2019.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a long ways, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go back to pre-books for a second, because I think that's one that isn't very obvious, because I think a lot of small brands don't really understand this at all. In fact, I would bet that even in the industry, if you're not completely in tune with it, a pre-book could come and go and you'd never know. Right. Do you mind talking about that a little bit? Because I feel like this is a serious competitive edge that little brands should be coming to brokers for.
Yeah. Definitely. So a pre-book is as the name indicates, it's an opportunity for stores to pre-book your product. And if you use the example of cough and cold season coming up, and let's say again in the September time, the stores would at this point in time be doing some form of booking of your product. So you're gonna have your product in a pre-book. The stores are going to have a period of time to be able to review the planogram. So get back to Kenny's discussion on a buyer or category managers determine what that planogram is going to look like. The stores now get a chance to be able to take a look at the products in there, see what promotions are attached against it, and then be able to say, I want to order 10 of these, 12 of these, or whatever for the season. And so all of those stores orders are collected and come back to the vendor, or for us as a broker, and we get an idea on what we need to ship in. And it's a great way for a brand to be able to get out there and understand what, first of all, what the decision makers in the stores thinks of your product, and also gives you an idea on what you're going to need to build for inventory and lead time and stuff for it. So it's a great way to be able to do that. And I think a lot of times what small brands tend to think is they've got a really unique product. They don't want to tell anybody about it. They want to hold it close to their chest until they're all ready to go. Yeah. Whereas if you involve someone like ourselves as a broker into that sales cycle early enough, we can work with you on things like pre-books. We can work with you on planograms and dates and all this timing, and really give you an understanding, and I think a much better opportunity to be able to launch yourself out there. And so the product that Kenny referred to, our sun care product, we've had them for pretty much from day one for us as a broker, and we're able to work with them. They're a small brand. Every year we can get a nice forecast for what they need to do. They bring their product in from the US. They can get across, they're not rushed to have to do their shipping and stuff. And then we look at the end of the season to do an analysis and come back to them and say, okay, next summer when we do the pre-book, what are we going to do? What new products are you going to have out there, and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Nice. I like it. Yeah. Kind of lots of info here for indies, because I think this is a big one. Like I think that not a lot of indies try and go it alone, and they just they're kind of missing that expert in the corner, right? So it's definitely, all of this is super important for these guys to figure out how to get to market and be good at what they do. What other any other tips you want to give these guys?
Interesting thing that oftentimes comes up too is we can work on the opposite end of it too, not only from the beginning, but sometimes the calls we get are from brands that have sold and they've had a great huge first order, and but it didn't sell. It got onto the shelf and it just sat there, and now all of a sudden they got a big return, or they got a whole bunch of open boxes that are back in their warehouse, and they're almost starting from square one again. And they had some success to get into big retailer, and but there was nothing pulling it off the shelf. And so getting it on the shelf is one thing. You got to figure out how do you get it off the shelf.
Yeah, so it's funny, right? Like, so Kenny and I kind of went off. I think we went off on this last time. Was just this idea of making a sale and then knowing when you actually made a sale, right? So it's one thing, if you're a listener, it's one thing for you to sell the product to a retailer, and for them to take it and kind of put it somewhere. But if they're not, you've got to be able to get to these guys and figure out what they're doing with it, right? And that consumers are taking it off the shelf, or you are going to have somebody show up at your door and kind of say, look, like, stuff's been sitting around, you're going to have to take it back, or we're going to have to figure out how this all works, right?
Huge, it's a huge problem, definitely on in that side of it. And being able to work with a broker and being able to look at what we would have as the breadth of knowledge of understanding other similar products that are selling into that retailer, and saying, listen, this number of units that they're forecasting here, boy, that's a lot of inventory that's going in there. You may want to reconsider that. And but they get dollar signs in their eyes, right? And they think that things have happened, but all that has happened is it's got on the shelf, and now you're sitting there waiting. And again, we're in the stores all the time, and we would see if it's moving as well, and we'd be able to see the sales reports. So.
It's a typical problem that a lot of small people fall into, though, because like you said, all they see is the PO, and they see dollar signs and units. And you're a lot of times, I mean, as a buyer, I would try to walk them through this, but as a principal or the vendor, they were so gung-ho. And you're thinking, well, if you want to take a chance, you take a chance. Now, if they had come in with probably the 3 or 4 brokers that I liked, the broker probably would have told me before getting to me, don't pitch that to them. Mm-hmm. It's the wrong retailer. It's the wrong things. And here's the reasons why. This is what we probably should do. Why don't we start here, here, and here? Let's see what it does. Because you're right. I mean, you can put yourself into a massive pickle both ways. You could go into an account like a London Drugs, or let's say a Save-On. So we'll pick the biggest drugstore and the biggest grocer sort of in West. You go into those two guys, it's going to go one of the two ways. You're either going to get a massive pipeline fill, and it's going to start to sell. And now you're up shit creek because you can't produce quick enough. And I don't want to deal with the shorts. I've got customers wanting to buy it. Yeah. Or you're going to have the flip side. You got so excited, you didn't manage your numbers well. I filled the pipeline, and it's not selling. And I think Phil and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, is that what people need to realize is that just because the product's been paid for and you think you don't own it anymore, the retailer never really owns the product. There's a magic little clause called a guaranteed sale. You always seem to get that product back.
Yeah.
And you got to be aware of that, right?
Oh my gosh, that's the worst, to get stuff back because now you can't sell it, or like you're.
What are you going to do with it?
And
but that's where the brokers can't help you. They'll tell you the rules of engagement and maybe even warn you, don't go into that account yet.
Yeah.
It's not the right fit. This is a better fit, and they can rattle off the reasons. Now, if you choose to believe it or not, that's, ultimately you're the principal. It's your brand. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But there's a reason you want to knock on these doors and grab this expertise, because this is where you either lose the company or you've got a company that's going to last a few years. Like, you can lose it all in that first PO can kill you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just it. That's what happens.
Yeah. Let's change gears a little, because I think this will also help with kind of understanding how Jim and brokers are going to be able to help out. So let's talk about tell us where you are with your launch. Do you have product yet?
Nope. Product is I think it went into production yesterday.
Okay.
I got nodes though. We got one product now that's not going to ship until the beginning of March.
Okay.
So I think from last week, in 1 week, we've already got a hiccup. So 3 of the 4 will be ready to go. So the question was from our manufacturer, what do you want to do? And I thought, just ship me the 3. Don't worry about the last one.
Yeah.
You know, again, I'm not going to mass retail yet. I'm not worried about planograms. I'm not worried about pipeline. We're going to work on the independents, heavy online, and I'll start, you know, playing it that way. But, you know, this is where I'm thankful that I, you know, because I've done this long enough that I didn't get way ahead of myself. I don't have a massive amount of commitments.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got promises that I've made to sort of people on the web pages and the Facebook, but I can just change a date. But, you know, I can't do that to a London Drugs or a Save On.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So the product's coming, but there's just a small hiccup.
Nice. I like it.
I
like it.
I'm stoked. I want this thing to get going.
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to
selling
some of this stuff. Got to
start selling.
Sell some of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
Earn your keep.
I know. Jim, thank you for coming on the show. Would you let's do all that stuff. So do you mind just telling folks where they can find you?
A shameless plug.
Your website, your Twitter, if you've got Facebook, all that stuff. Tell them. I'm sure folks are going to have questions. I mean,
feel free reach out to us. It's Shopland Health, so SHOPLAND. Shoplandhealth.ca is our website. You can get us at Shopland Health on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. You see all the information on there. Our contact information is there. Feel free to reach out to us. We're going to be at the CHFA coming up and the Natural Product Show down in Anaheim, and so look forward to anybody that's going there to reach out if they want to connect and say hi and have a coffee or talk about some of their products and what are some of the things that we can do to help them out in Western Canada and anything to do with natural health products and expanding their business. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
So if you so you've got all those contacts, they'll be in the episode tag as well. We'll make sure we leave all the links there. And short of that, if you're feeling real shy and you don't, Jim's a super nice guy. If you don't want to reach out to him, ping Kenny and I, and we'll make sure we get him all of your questions. And maybe if you've got enough questions, we'll bring Jim back on and he can answer them himself on the show as well. So
that'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be super cool. Jim, thanks for joining us today. This was amazing. There was a lot of information here that our little guys will definitely find useful.
I appreciate it, guys. Anytime, reach out to me. I can be back on the show or answer any questions. I appreciate it.
All right, that's the end of this Commerce Life. We'll be back soon with the next episode. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it. Give us feedback. Tell us what you think. Subscribe, like us, join us, share us, tell your friends about us. And we hope to see you next time with more commerce news.